Hello. We are finally here. For the last 5 months, I have been ranking every episode of The Office, 180 episodes, and I'm finally here at the top 10. So excited. I've just preparing for this. I've been emotional, so warning, I might cry through this. So let's get to the top 10. Here we go. Number 10, season 3, episode 23, The Job. Jan arrives in Scranton with a surprise for Michael. Jim, Karen, an interview for the job at corporate, and Michael decides on his replacement. Wallace lets it slip that it's Jan's job, and she's fired, leading to a very public, very embarrassing meltdown. Jim makes a decision. The cold open is Michael gets to New York a day early. He doesn't realize this, and he sees David Wallace, and David Wallace is like, that's tomorrow. But Michael says, question, does anybody have as much experience as me? And who did you have when you need to merge two branches? You did me, right? And David was like, yep, that was you. So I'll see you tomorrow. And then he does a talking head. He says he knows this company in and out, and all the other managers are morons. And then he calls Pam and says, hey, I'll be late because I forgot what day the interview was. So Jim got a haircut. He because according to Karen, so he would look less homeless. So Jim goes from that scruffy look from the earlier seasons to a normal haircut. He said that he and Pam had a talk after beach games, and that he said he will always treasure their friendship. Pam and Karen talk, and Karen says, yeah, we were all said crazy things. It was a crazy night. And Pam's like, no, I meant all that. And Karen does a talking head and says, wow, Pam is kind of a bitch. So Pam is definitely asserting herself, or learning to assert herself. Creed has Creed Thoughts, www.creedthoughts.gov.www/Creed Thoughts. And Ryan, to save the world, to save the world from reading Creed Thoughts, just made it as a Word document. And Ryan says, even for the internet, it's shocking. I can imagine what Creed would say, would write. So Jan shows up, and Michael just dumped her. That was in women's, what was it? The one where he took them to the mall. And so Jan shows up, and she's like wearing a coat. And Michael, basically, she's been calling Michael, and Michael just has been ignoring her. So she shows up, and he hurries up and gets together the girls' council, which is Pam and Karen and Phyllis and maybe Angela or something like that. And they have a quick conference, and they say, no, just don't listen to her. Still don't go back together with her. And then Jan takes off her coat, and she got a boob job. So Michael is mesmerized, and he changes his mind and gets back together with her. Oh, Michael. So then everybody comments on Jan's boob job, and Meredith says, in my experience, guys are way more attracted to the back of you than the front. Crane says, I find them offensive. All natural, baby. That's how I like them. Swing low, sweet chariots. Oh my. So Michael is so sure that he's going to get the job at New York that he appoints Dwight the new regional manager. And Dwight Dwight has a interview for the assistant to the regional manager, and only Andy signs up. So I guess it has to be Andy. But Pam, he wants Pam to be the secret assistant to the regional manager. And Dwight says, do you accept? And Pam says, absolutely, I do. Because she learned from Jim that whenever Dwight proposes something, you say, absolutely, I do. So Dwight institutes Schrute bucks. And if you do things for Schrute bucks, but Stanley doesn't want them, and Dwight says, don't you want to earn Schrute bucks? And Stanley says, no. In fact, I'll give you $1 billion Stanley nickels if you ever talk to me again. If you never talk to me again. And Dwight says, "What's the ratio of Stanley Nichols to Schrute?" And Stanley says, "It's the same as the ratio of unicorns and leprechauns." So Michael has the interview and it goes pretty well. And then at the end, he says, "Oh, by the way, I just want to let you know I'm seeing Jan again." And David says, well, that's a problem. I thought it was obvious you're interviewing for her job. She's going to be fired." And Michael, Jan is there, and Michael immediately tells her because Michael is the worst secret keeper in the history of the world. And she just flips out on him and she says, "Is it because of my boobs? Because Michael likes them." And David's like, "No, your behavior has been erratic. All you do is smoke. You visit Scranton way more often than you should. You're always in Scottsdale, Arizona, visiting your sister. So yeah, so that gets crazy. Karen and Jim interview, and while Jim is interviewing, I mean, obviously David Wallace loves him and probably would have offered him the job. And as David's asking for numbers or something like that, and he reaches in his bag, and Pam put in a medal from Office Olympics, and she wrote on it, "Don't forget us when you're famous." And that makes him remember. And David says, "Well, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years or whatever?" And by the way, when anybody asks, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" the only appropriate answer is celebrating the 5-year anniversary of you asking me this question. Thank you, Mitch Hedberg. So then we see that Jim is heading back, and Pam has a talking head, and she says, "You know what, the timing never worked out with Jim. I'm happy for him, and I wish him well and stuff." And while he's talking, Jim barges in and says, "Hey, will you doing anything tonight? Then it's a date." And Pam, for some, I'm getting emotional. Pam is all flustered and happy, and she says, "I'm sorry, what was the question?" One of the greatest scenes in all of The Office, or at least one of the most important emotional scenes in all of The Office, because after 3 seasons, we finally see them possibly getting together. So huge scene, and Jenna Fisher just nailed it, which just perfect acting by her. It was wonderful. So Ryan is talking, and it turns out that Ryan secretly also interviewed for the job, and he got it. And he's talking, he accepts the job, and Kelly's there, and he says, "Yeah, I'll accept it. I'll see you." And he hangs up, and he says to Kelly, "We're through." One thing that was interesting is they were considering many scenarios for who would get the job, but one of them was that Karen would get it, but she was about to become Ann Perkins on Parks and Rec, which just started up. Number 9, season 7, episode 17, Threat Level Midnight. Oh my God. Michael finally finishes his movie Threat Level Midnight and screens it for his employees at Dunder Mifflin, but Holly is less enthusiastic for his finished product. He finally finishes it after many years of filming and rewrites and edits, and I think 11 years total it took them to make this thing, and he finally finished it. But when he showed a rough draft of years ago, everybody started laughing, and he's like, "Okay, that's it. We're done. You're gonna make fun of me, then stop it." So when Michael steps outside or whatever, Pam says, "Everybody, okay, nobody laugh. We want to see this thing. Okay, so everybody be nice." So it's about how Michael Scarn was the best agent in the business, and he was married to Catherine Zeta-Jones, but then Golden Face killed her in an explosion at the WNBA All-Star Game. To Michael Scott, the All-Star Game of anything of any sport is the biggest thing ever. So where is he now? He's he's drunk in his bed. He's out of commission, and he has his butler, who's played by Dwight, who may or may not be a robot. So, but Daryl plays the president and says, "Yeah, you have a job." And that job is to stop Golden Face. He's taken all the workers hostage at the NHL All-Star game. And he's in his office, and the delivery guy comes and tries to kill Michael, and he shoots him, and the guy's dead. And Michael Scarn says, "Looks like there's going to be a cleanup on Al 5." So he meets up with Golden Face, who's played by Jim, and he says, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to dig up Scarn's wife, and I'm going to hump her real good." And Jim does a talking head and says, "I did not love the dialogue or the character. I took the role to impress the receptionist who shall remain nameless." I love that. So Michael Scarn he finds out that the NHL All-Star game is sold out, so he can't get in, but then he has to get in as a skater, but he doesn't know how to skate. So he gets trained by Cherokee Jack, who is played by Creed. Now, apparently, the original person that they wanted for Cherokee Jack was Charles Minor, who was played by Idris Elba, but he was in England or something like that, and they couldn't bring him over. He was doing another movie or something like that. I don't understand a scenario where Michael Scott would get Charles Minor to be in his movie. Like Charles hated Michael and hated all his nonsense. So why would he participate in something like this? I don't know. But anyway, this is a very Karate Kid thing, training montage we have, because Creed says, "Mop the ice." And it's like, why would I mop the ice? So he's like, mopping the ice, mopping the ice, mopping the ice. And then he gives him it's like, why was I mopping the ice? Then he gives him a hockey stick, and he becomes like an expert hockey player because he was mopping the ice. So there was a training montage. Then there's a speed skating competition, and whoever wins gets to the All-Star game. And it was Michael Scarn, Oscar, and Golden Face, and they're skating and they're shooting at each other. It's just so ridiculous. And Michael Scarn says, "Well, you didn't win, Golden Face." And Golden Face says, "I wasn't trying to win. I was just trying to distract you." And Oscar was the winner. But then Michael takes the American flag and strangles Oscar with it. So stupid. Scarn learns that he needs to go to the jazz club, and Jan is the singer, and she's singing like in backwards. And he plays a tape and then runs it backwards, and she's singing, "The hostages are under the stadium." So we cut to this under the stadium, and all the hostages are there, which is like Pam and Roy and Toby, and basically all the people from The Office. And Pam is saying, "Why don't you let us go?" And Golden Face says, "No, and I'm gonna show that I'm serious. So I'm gonna shoot a hostage." And he shoots Toby in the head. And they did it over and over and over again, and exploding the head. And Michael Scott says that shot was the biggest budget thing in the whole shoot. So yeah, he blows Toby's head off many times, and Michael Scott says, "The joke's on you, Golden Face. That man is a wanted animal rapist." And then Golden Face says, the bomb is in the puck. And Michael Scarn says, "Hey, Golden Face, go puck yourself." But Golden Face shoots Michael Scarn, but Dwight goes to save him. And Michael Scott says, "That wasn't supposed to happen." It's Dwight wanted to save Michael. But Michael Scarn does end up engaged. He waits in the hole. And this is where the really sexy nurse out. It turns out it's Mom. And Pam Pam is saying, "Oh my God. I mean, oh, this is so good." She couldn't believe her mom was doing this. And Michael Scarn says, "It'll take a lot more to the bullet than a bullet to the brain, lungs, heart, back, and balls to kill Michael Scarn." What kind of magic bullet was this? Uh, so so he recovers and he goes to the president and he finds out that the president has been working with Golden Face to get for the insurance money because he owns the arena of the NHL All-Star game. So he's down on his luck and he goes to a bar and uh it's Billy the bartender, who's played by Andy, who has this great accent. And Billy the bartender says, "Hey, why don't you go talk to that bachelorette party over there?" And it's Karen, Angela, Phyllis, and Meredith. And uh and they in the deleted scenes, they all have lines, but the only one that makes it is Karen, who says, "Ever banged an entire bachelorette party, baby?" And then they cut to Karen and she's like, "You singling out for that one thing? That's what you remember from me?" They also when they had Jan's scene, they interviewed her and she's like, "Oh, he finally made a movie. That's nice. Yeah, that's nice." And I guess she couldn't get in her car or something like that. So then everybody in the bar does the scarn. You do the scarn. You jump to the right and you shake a hand, and you jump to the left and you shake a hand, meet new friends, tie some yarn, and that's how you do the scarn. Love it. Love it. So Holly is not crazy about this. She just says, it's like, "Oh, this is nice. You got to," she says, "Oh, you got to do something with your friends. That's nice. You should be happy." And that is a huge insult to Michael. He's very upset that she would say that and she didn't like it. But she talks to him and he realizes where he's at in his life. And okay, don't lose it. It, he made this and he did things like write a book and work on a stand-up comedy special and do this because to fulfill his life. But now he realizes that Holly is his life, that he has someone in his life. So he gets a little bit of self-awareness and he comes back and he just realizes how silly this all is. And he talks about the hockey game, how he caused the hockey game to have a disqualification in that high school. That was an actual hockey game with a high school team, and it screwed up the team or something like that. And he's just he's able to laugh about it, and because everybody is basically laughing about it. So yeah. Also in this is at the end is Threat Level Midnight. Oh, I wish I had it. I don't. Darn it, I have it. Threat Level Midnight. It's just amazing. Threat Level Midnight loves it's a hit with all the ladies from Madonna to Madeline Albright. And he's talking about apartheid and free Mandela or something like that. It's amazing. Threat level who? Threat level what? Threat level midnight. It's just amazing. Number 8, season 6, episodes 4 and 5, Niagara, parts 1 and 2. The 2-part episode revolves around the wedding of Jim and Pam at Niagara Falls. Not all goes smoothly when Jim accidentally reveals Pam's pregnancy to all the guests, including Pam's very old-fashioned grandmother, and Andy injures his scrotum while dancing. Meanwhile, Michael and Dwight both try to hook up with women with mixed results. The cold open was Pam asking everyone in the office that because she's pregnant, can we cut down on the things that smell because it makes her throw up. Phyllis is known for having strong perfumes and just smelling bad and gas and all this stuff. And everybody gets mad. It's like, I'm not changing my life for you. I don't care about your pregnancy or throwing up or whatever. So Dwight says, "Oh yeah, I'm not changing anything." So he peels a hard-boiled egg, and Pam just looks right at him and throws up in the in the garbage can. which causes Andy to throw up, which causes Dwight to throw up, which causes the entire office to just vomit. Angela is like, she's like holding her mouth and just vomit is coming out. Michael and Dwight are driving up to Niagara together, and Dwight made a mixtape for a CD for Michael. And in this CD, it's him saying, congratulating the woman on that they're about to have some fantastic lovemaking or something like that. It was really, really odd. But Michael goes up to the hotel and just says, yeah, I'm here for a room. And they're like, no, that's not how this works. Just because, I mean, we're all booked up. We don't have a room. And so he asks everybody for a room. The whole thing about, yeah, Jim says, everybody have a toast. Everybody raise your glass except for Pam. And Meemaw says, why can't Pam drink? And and then Jim says, it's because she's an alcoholic. I mean, because she's pregnant. And then Michael has wanted to have a toast, but he wasn't allowed. But he makes a toast. He gets up anyway and talks and basically talks about how Jim and Pam didn't want to wear condoms, so that's why, and how wonderful sex is without a condom or something. So Mima she's disgusted, and she's not going to attend the wedding. But then Michael talks to her and talks her into it or something like that. I don't know. He tells her at one point, he said, they're going to name the baby Mima. So, and the night before the wedding, they are having like a dance party, and Andy is dancing and tears his scrotum. So everybody's drunk, so nobody can drive him to the hospital. So Pam has to drive him to the hospital. Michael keeps trying to hook up with women, but he can't. But Dwight is successful hooking up with Isabel, who's Pam's friend. Kevin gets a toupee. He looks so silly. He also has his shoes destroyed because he had them cleaned or something, and they said your feet are disgusting, your shoes are disgusting. So Kevin has to wear Kleenex boxes as shoes. The day of the wedding, Pam's veil tore and she just loses it. She's like, everything is a disaster. Nothing's going right. It's not perfect. And Jim says, that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And he cuts his tie in support. So they say, let's just get out of here. So they leave and they come back and everybody's waiting for them. But what they did was they got married on the Maid of the Mist. So they come back to the wedding and they're walking down the aisle, and then Michael says, hit it. And they all do that coordinated dance. I guess that was a big thing, years ago, where they're all, dancing down the aisle and stuff. And it was just complete silliness. Dwight and Isabel were going down, and he accidentally kicked her in the face or something. Just so bad. Michael actually did find someone to hook up with. It was Pam's mom. So we see that in the next few episodes. Yeah, it was a beautiful thing of, Jim and Pam finally got married. It was a beautiful for them finally getting married. Jim says, I bought those boat tickets the day I saw that YouTube video. I knew we needed a backup plan. The boat was actually plan C. The church was plan B, and plan A was marrying her a long, long time ago. Pretty much the day I met her. Number 7, season 7, episode 19, garage sale. The staff organizes the garage sale. Starting to get emotional already. The staff organizes a garage sale on the warehouse in which Dwight tries to get the most valuable item by trading things, starting with a needle. Michael needs to make an important decision regarding Holly and his life. So this actually has a basis in reality, where this guy had a red paperclip and he traded it. He kept trading it, and he ended up getting a house for it. So it was an amazing thing. There was actually, I mean, at one point he had a movie role that he traded this thing for. It was just amazing. He just kept trading and trading and trading. So that's what Dwight did. Dwight started with a little thing and he kept trading and trading, and he ended up with a stethoscope. Oh, I'm sorry, a telescope. And but then he sees Jim's magic beans. I'm sorry, Professor Copperfield's magic lagoons. And Jim said, this won't, I can't get rid of this thing. And he stomps it and throws it away, and then it magically appears. And finally Dwight says, okay, I'll take it. And Jim says, okay, give me the telescope. So he gave him the telescope, and then um he put the the magic beans in pots and watered them, and Jim came along and made them, or swapped them out for giant bean plants. Um, I, Dwight has a farm. Why is he planting things at the office? I don't know. Also, Daryl, Kevin, and Andy play Dallas the game, and they don't have instructions, so they don't know what to do. So they're just making up their own rules, and they're just. And Kevin doesn't like how it goes, and he goes, I'm never playing with you again, and he storms out, but he actually steals all the money, and he says, and that's how you play Dallas. Pretty silly. Michael tried to sell the TV that got broken from dinner party, tried to sell a St. Pauli girl thing, St. Pauli girl neon sign. And he decides he is going to ask Holly to marry him. So he calls Holly's dad and leaves a message and says, hi, I'm gonna propose to your daughter. Just wanted to get your approval. And Holly talks to her parents, and the mother says, why didn't Michael call us? And Holly says, I think I know why. But both their parents are just, it's not, they don't seem to be all together there. So that Holly gets real concerned. Holly talks to Phyllis, and apparently Phyllis had a mother who they just put in a home or something like that. And Holly says, well, how do you know when it's time to put them in a home, or that they need extra care? And Phyllis says, well, they're never going to tell you. So just remember that they're never, they're never going to let you know that they need extra care. You have to figure that out. So she decides she's going to have to move to Colorado to take care of them. And so Michael decides he's going to propose to Holly. So he gets a can of gasoline and is dumping it all over the parking lots. And Pam sees this and freaks out. It's like, Michael, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I want to propose to Holly, and I want to write it in fire. She's like, no, no, let's not do that. Let's think of a different idea. And Pam has a meeting, brings him into a meeting. It's Jim, Oscar, Ryan, and Pam and Michael. And they say, yeah, you're okay. That's great. You want to propose to her, but maybe let's think of something better. and Oscar says, if you are in costume, you did something wrong. So then Michael and Holly are talking in the break room, and Holly tells him that she has to move to Colorado, and she's about to propose to him, and he's like, no, don't do that. And he has a talking head. He says, no, I will not be proposed to in the break room. I should have burned this place down when I had the chance. There was somebody did a yearbook quote and said season 7 episode 19 and whatever minute this was that they had this quote. So that was their yearbook quote. I should have burned this place when I had the chance. It's kind of dark. So everybody gets involved in the proposal. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep it. I'm gonna try to not get emotional. He says, let's go for a walk. And they go to the lobby and he says, this is where Toby announced he's going to Costa Rica. And also this is where we first kissed, and we did a little more than that. And then he goes up to the office, up to his office, and he says, this is where I first saw you, and I thought you were so cute. And this is also when I thought I had herpes. It wasn't herpes. Turns out it was an ingrown hair. And then he goes to the conference room and says, this is where we co-ran our first meeting on obesity. I was Michael Klump. I'll sit on you. Then he says, keep it together. Then he says that he would get water. Take a come on. He would get water. He would pretend to get water just to look at her. And then come on. He brings then he brings her and he says, this is where we face our love's greatest test. And everyone is there. Come on. And they all ask her to marry. I'll ask her to marry her. And she says no. And then there's like a million candles there. And come on. I'm trying. And he says, this is where I fell in love with you. And this is where I ask you to marry me. Sorry. And then all the water starts again because you have a million candles in a paper, in a paper company. That's pretty crazy. So the water, the sprinklers go off and it's water like crazy. And she says, he asks her, they do the Yoda thing. It's like, marry me, will you? And she says yes. And everyone is so happy, and everybody comes in and hugs him and kiss him. Come on. and he says, we're moving to Colorado. She said yes, we're moving to Colorado. And Kevin says, all of us? And he says he's leaving. And on the Office Ladies podcast, when come on, get it together. On the Office Ladies podcast, when they were talking about this, Jenna Fisher says that even when she was talking about it, she was tearing up because this was the first time they heard come on, Steve Carell say, I'm leaving. I mean, they knew he was leaving, but this is the first time they said it, so they got really emotional. So yeah, very emotional. Number 6, season 2, episode 22, Casino Night. The Scranton Business Park holds their charity casino nights in the Dunder Mifflin warehouse. Michael invites both Janet and Carol to the party. Pam and Roy start finalizing their wedding plans while Jim contemplates a transfer to another branch. The cold open was pretty good. Jim says that he can control things with his mind, and Dwight says, okay, fine, you can control things with your mind. Go control that coat rack over there near Pam. So he's pretending to move it with his mind, and Pam is actually moving it with an umbrella, and Dwight is just astounded. So it's casino night. They're transforming the warehouse into a casino, and they're doing this for charity, supposedly. And Michael says, oh, and another fun thing. We, at the end of the night, are going to give the check to an actual group of Boy Scouts. Right, Toby? And Toby says, actually, I didn't think it was appropriate to invite children since there's gambling and alcohol, and it's in our dangerous warehouse, and it's a school night, and Hooters is catering. Isn't that enough? Should I keep going? And Michael has one of the great quotes. Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be. That's so awesome. Roy's job has been, Roy's basically done nothing for this wedding with Pam, and She asked him to pick a band, and he said he didn't even do that. So Jim helps Pam pick a wedding band, and they're going through these various bands, and they see that one of them is Scrantonicity, which is Kevin's band. The original plan was actually that it was supposed to be I think it was called Jokers and Tokers or something like that. It was supposed to be a Steve Miller tribute band, but it's they couldn't get the rights to the music or the name or whatever, so they changed it to Scrantonicity. But the big thing is one of the biggest scenes in The Office. Jim tells Pam, this is the season 2 season finale. Jim tells Pam he's in love with her. He said, I just need to tell you. And she rejects him. She's in the office, she's crying, she calls her mom, and she doesn't know what to do. And Jim comes in and kisses her. And then we don't know what happens. Well, we don't know what happens until season 3. So it's one of the biggest scenes in all of The Office. Number 5, season 9, episode 22, AARM. Jim convinces Dwight that he needs someone to act as an assistant to the regional manager. The two hold tryouts for the position. Pam worries that she's holding Jim back from being truly happy. And after daycare turns away her child, Angela is forced to bring Philip to work. And Kevin is jealous of the attention the toddler gets. And Dwight notices a number of shoot traits in the boy. And Andy auditions for America's Next Acapella Sensation. So at this point, this is almost the end of season 9. Dwight was just named manager, and he put in a system where to get in, you have to give a passphrase. And if you don't get he emails everybody the passphrase the night before. If they don't get it right, you get steamed, which apparently isn't dangerous or anything. It's just annoying. Well, everybody gets it right except for Dwight. Dwight forgets it, and Aaron says, "Well, should I just let you in anyway?" He's like, no, we got to follow the rules. Steam me. So he gets steamed. At this point, so Dwight is a manager, Jim has been named the assistant, and they're cutting down on nonsense. They have a board that says how many days since the last nonsense. But Pam feels guilty because Jim proposes that someone needs an assistant to the regional manager. So somebody for assistant to Jim. And he basically plays a prank on Dwight that Dwight turns out to be his assistant, even though Jim is the assistant. It's silly. So Jim is back to being goofy Jim, and I've said this so many times, but I hate the Pam character so much for this whole storyline. I think she was incredibly selfish. I think you should support your partner when they wanted to further their career or something like that. And she was just totally selfish and made him quit the athlete job. So he's back with her. He's being goofy, and she likes that. But she says to him, "I don't think I'm good enough." And Jim tries to tell her that's ridiculous. But then he says to the documentary crew, "I know this is against the rules, but can you do me a favor?" So we'll see what that favor is. Andy quit his job and took a dump on David's car. So he basically burned that bridge. And he goes to America's Next Acapella Sensation or whatever. And he's in line with like 1,000 other people. And they're waiting in line, and they're like, "Okay, that's it. We're not auditioning anymore. Thanks for coming." And then he's like, "No. I have to audition. I burned all my bridges. I have to audition. This is my whole life." So he sneaks in past security, and he does an audition. And the judges, so he does sing, and the judges say, "You suck." And one of the judges was Aaron Rodgers, and I guess it's Brian Baumgartner, who's Kevin, actually is friends with Aaron Rodgers and got him to be on the show. So yeah, he acts like an idiot. And as we see in the finale, Andy wants to become famous. Well, guess what? You became famous for, and the entire country laughs at him. Saturday Night Live does a parody of him. It's just he becomes one of those viral sensations that everybody makes fun of. So Daryl at this point quits to join Athlete. He came back for some reason, and everybody is like, why did you just sneak out? You can't do that. And everybody wanted to do something with him all day. He's like, no. You guys pick one thing that we could all do. And the thing that they picked was a dance party, and everybody danced with him. And it was actually very, very cute and sweet. So Angela at this point is a mess. She looks like hell. She's about to get kicked out of her apartment. She lost all her cats because I guess you can't have cats in that apartment. And Oscar says, you can live with me. So she's living with Oscar, and she's living in his closet. So literally she's in the closet of a gay man. But so Angela has to bring Philip to work because not even the daycare wants anything to do with Angela. And Dwight, he gets to hang out with Philip a little bit, and Philip just looks and acts like Dwight. So he gives him $1 million or a beat, and the baby says beat, which actually was not in the script. The baby just did that, and they left it in. So that's really cute. But anyway, Dwight says to Angela, I think that baby's mine, and I know you're in bad shape, so I will offer you marriage, and I will raise the child. And she says no. So Jim gives Pam a DVD, and she says, I want to show you this. And then, but Dwight's like, I need you now. And Jim's like, you know what? I'm kind of in the middle of something. And Dwight's like, no, I really, really need you now. And Jim's like, okay, fine. So he tells Pam, just hang tight. Just, I'll be right back. So as Pam is waiting, she actually puts the DVD in the laptop, and she plays it. And it is basically a highlight reel from the documentary crew of all the moments of Jim and Pam's life together, through that were filmed. It's a beautiful highlight reel. So she's watching that. What Dwight wanted was that, here I go, I'm going to get emotional again. What Dwight wanted was advice, because he was about to propose to that girl. I forget her name, and she comes from a good family, and if he marries her, he gets a whole freezer full of premium cattle sperm or something like that. And he has the wedding ring that was pulled from the buttocks of his grandma or something like that was shot by somebody from the Coors family or something like that. It's so stupid. But anyway, he says he's going to propose to her, and Jim says you shouldn't do that. It's Angela. It's always been Angela. And it's just so sweet because Jim and Dwight started out as enemies, and they became closer and closer. And now it's Jim guiding him through the biggest decision of his life. And he says, you just got to do everything you can to get the one woman who's going to make this all worth it. At the end of the day, you got to jump. You love Angela, Dwight, and I think you always have. And so he decides to go after Angela. And she's driving, I guess she's driving somewhere, and he is in his Trans Am, and he has the siren on. He's like, pull over. And she's like, no, what are you doing? And he like cuts her off and makes her, almost runs into her. And she's like, what the hell is your problem? And he just says, I love you. And I don't care. I don't care if Philip isn't my son. I don't care. I'll raise, you could have 100 different lovers and have kids and I'll raise them too. I love you. And she says, I love you too. And it is your son. And I didn't tell you because I wanted you to to love me for me, not because not because you thought you had to or something like that. I wanted you to actually love me. So he proposes to her. And so Pam is watching the CD of the DVD of all the highlights, and then Jim comes in and he gives her the note from the teapot from the Christmas episode, which nobody knows what's in the notes. No, we still don't know. And I guess we never will know, but he says to her, not enough for me. You are everything. So everybody shows up at Poor Richard's to watch the documentary. Even Andy shows up, and the first scene is actually the first scene from the pilot of The Office. So it's Michael and Jim talking. Number 4, season 4, episode 9, dinner party. Michael invites Jim and Pam and Andy and Angela to a couples only dinner party, which makes Dwight very jealous. However, the only thing he's missing is a ringside seat to witness Michael and Jan's extremely dysfunctional home life. And the cold open was, I've heard it called the Batman Gambit. Michael had everybody work overtime on Friday, and then so Michael says to Jim, do you have any plans? He's like, well, no, we have to work. I don't have any plans. So then he calls corporate. He says, you know what? Screw this. We're not working overtime tonight. So, and then he comes and says, guess what, everybody? Overtime's canceled. So everybody gets to go home. And he's like, oh, by the way, since you don't have plans, you could come to my house tonight for dinner. And he gets them because every single time that he's asked Jim to come to his place, Jim says, oh, I have plans. I can't. And now he caught him. So that's the Batman Gambit. So he invites Jim and Pam. He invites Dwight and Andy and Angela because they're couples. It's a couples only thing. And Dwight is very upset. So Dwight has another plan. So Jim and Pam come to the house and Michael shows them around, and they go to the bedroom. Jan, there's a video camera there on a tripod, and Jan puts that away. There is a like a small bed, like a bench at the foot of the bed, and that's where Michael sleeps. It's the weirdest thing. And apparently this was based on a real thing that happened. So it's just one crazy thing after another about this episode, about their house and their relationship. There is a tiny TV that folds, and if you see the outtakes are famous of this episode. They cannot get through this scene because it's so stupid. He's like, if I want my room, boom, and he folds it in, and it's just they just can't get through this. It's just so funny. Jan plays a CD, and it's from her assistant Hunter, an original song by Hunter's band, and it's Hunter singing that night that basically that night that he hooked up with Jan, basically. And they're all sitting there, and Jan gets up and dances, and she's trying to dance with Jim, and Jim won't get up. So she's like, it's just the stupidest thing. Jan hates Pam because at some point, I'm sure this happened. I'm sure Michael either said it or inferred it that Pam and Michael went out. And so she thinks they dated, and she's like, no. And she's worried that Jan is going to poison her food. But And so Dwight ends up showing up with his babysitter. And Pam's like, what kind of relationship do you have? And Dwight's like, it's purely carnal, none of your business. They talk about, and just as the night goes on, they just get more and more angry at each other, and they keep calling each other babe. And eventually Jan takes a Dundee and breaks his tiny TV, and the police end up getting called. Dwight goes, what seems to be the problem, officers? And the guy's like, not now, Dwight. So the cops come and they say, hey, you should go to someone's house. At one point Jim tried to get out of it. He's saying, oh no, in my apartment the sprinkler went off and all my stuff is flooded and all my stuff is destroyed. And he's like, me and Pam gotta go. And Michael's like, no, actually, well, just you have to go. He's like, okay, bye. And Pam's like, no, you are not leaving without me. And said, you can, your stuff will always be there. Your stuff, you can replace your stuff, but your friendships are more important. So he's not allowed to get out of it. And then at the end, the cop says, you need to go to one of your friends' house to stay for the night. And Michael says, Jim, can I stay with you? He's like, well, no, all my stuff got lost in a fire. I mean, a flood. So this is just one of the craziest episodes ever. A lot of people list Dinner Party as the #1 episode. It is the essential Office episode. It's just so cringy and just so absurd. It's just absolutely amazing. Number 3, season 5, episodes 14 and 15, Stress Relief parts 1 and 2. So the cold open is definitely the craziest cold open ever. This is where Dwight got mad because nobody paid attention to his fire presentation, and he says, oh, that's because I used PowerPoint. So Dwight decides to have another demonstration. So he says he lights a trash can on fire, and he says, today smoking is going to save lives. And smoke is coming out, and nobody notices it, but then Dwight says, hey, what's that smell? What's that smoky smell? And Pam says, oh my God, it's smoking. And Michael, one of the most famous gifts, he's like, oh my God, it's happening. Everybody calm down. And it's absolute pandemonium. Oscar is climbing up the ceiling, and Angela's like, save me. And he's like, you're too heavy. It's like, I'm only 80 pounds. And then she gets her cat and says, save Bandit. And she throws the cat, and the cat falls through the ceiling. Kevin breaks the vending machine and steals all the potato chips from it. And then, so everybody's freaking out. They can't get out. And then Dwight lights firecrackers, and he says, the fire is shooting at us. And then Dwight says, okay, everybody, it was just a drill. And Stanley has a heart attack. And Michael doesn't know what to do. He says, Stanley, you will not die. Barack is president. You are black, Stanley. Oh my goodness. So Dwight and Michael go to New York. He's there with David Wallace, and I'm guessing a lawyer or something like that. And Michael says, okay, Dwight, we're not mad. We're just disappointed. And David Wallace is like, no, we're mad. And so Dwight's big punishment was he's not safety officer anymore. Like, what is going on? You could have burned down the building, dude. So Michael decides because when Stanley got the heart attack that they didn't know what to do, he decides to do CPR. And Michael says, nobody should have to go to the work thinking, oh, this is the place that I might die today. That's what a hospital's for. An office is not for dying. An office is a place to live life to the fullest, to the max. An office is a place where dreams come true. That's basically Michael Scott in it in a nutshell. He thinks that work is a magic place. So this is, in my opinion, the greatest scene in the history of all The Office, the CPR course. There are so many wonderful things about this thing. First of all, Kevin tries to do CPR, and he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And the lady's like, it's only been 20 seconds. He's like, call it. We can't do it anymore. So, and Michael has a talking head. He says, we found ourselves on the less prepared side of things when Stanley had when his heart went berserk. And I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do. Another great Office quote. So Michael is trying to do CPR, and the lady says, are they breathing? No, Rose, they're not breathing. And they have no arms and legs. And you know what? If we come across somebody with no arms or legs, do we even bother resuscitating them? I mean, what kind of quality of life do we have there? I wouldn't want to live with no legs. How about no arms? No arms and legs. And Kevin says, how about no arms? And Michael says, no arms and legs is basically how you exist right now, Kevin. You don't do anything. So, and then Michael was pumping too fast, and the instructor says, no, you need to pump to the tune of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Do you know that song? And Michael says, yes, I know that song. First I was afraid, I was petrified. And she's like, no, it's Staying Alive. Staying alive, staying alive. And they start, Andy starts singing the song, and Kelly starts dancing, and then Michael's dancing, and they're all dancing and singing. And she says, okay, you didn't maintain 100 beats per minute, and the ambulance didn't arrive because nobody called 911, so you lost him. Okay, he's dead. And Dwight says, anyone know what we do next? Anybody? Rose? She's like, I have no idea. Anyone? We bury him. Someone says, we bury him. And Dwight says, wrong. Check for an organ donor card. If he has one, we only have minutes to harvest. And Creed says, he has no wallet. I checked. So then Dwight pulls a knife from his leg, and he stabs the thing, and it's carving out. And Stanley just looks like he's about to have a heart attack again. And then Dwight cuts out the face and puts it on like Hannibal. Someone actually said that this episode saved someone's life because they remembered the CPR training from this episode. And they actually saved someone's life, which is crazy. There was another thing. While all this was going on, Creed interrupts and says, I know where you're from. I saw you in the parking lot. It was just the stupidest thing. So Michael and Dwight head to New York again to talk to David Wallace and the lawyer. And they're like, we had to pay for the dummy. That cost like $5,000. And Michael says, David, this is why we have training. We start with the dummy and we learn from our mistakes. And now Dwight knows not to cut the face off a real person. And so Dwight's punishment this time is he has to give an apology, and everybody has to sign a thing to say that they acknowledge his apology. And his apology is, I regret this, or something like that. And Jim says, you couldn't have memorized that, and Dwight says, no, because I don't think it. I don't believe it. So this was the episode. This is actually the most watched episode of the Office ever. I think it got like 20 million viewers, and the reason was because it was right after the Super Bowl. I think this was the Steelers Super Bowl. I think this happened in 2009 or 2010 or whatever. So because it was a Super Bowl episode, the network said, you need stars. And the creators of The Office are like, what do you mean stars? It's a paper company in Scranton. Is George Clooney magically going to show up in Scranton? Like what are we going to do? And so they figured the workaround was to have a movie to have Jim and Pam watch a bootleg movie that Andy got, and Jim, Pam, and Andy will watch this movie of it was Jessica Alba. Jessica Alba was dating Jack Black, and then she introduces him to her grandma, and he falls in love with the grandma, who's Cloris Leachman, and they have an affair, and he dumps Jessica Alba for Cloris Leachman. As this is happening, Jim and Pam are distracted because they have Pam's parents are having marital problems, and Pam's dad is actually staying with Jim and Pam. And so at the end of part 1, she says, go talk to go talk to my dad. Jim's like, huh? Okay. And so Michael tries to have everybody do relaxation techniques and meditation, and Stanley has this stress detector, and it beeps like crazy when he has high stress. And it's basically anytime Michael goes near him, the stress detector goes crazy, and then when Michael goes away, the stress goes away. So Michael realizes, oh my goodness, it's not Dwight that's causing the stress, it's him, and he freaks out. So Michael has a great idea that they should do a Comedy Central roast of Michael Scott, where everybody is going to roast him. And meanwhile, Pam's dad, after Pam's dad talks to Jim, he says he's getting a divorce, and he goes to find an apartment, and Pam freaks out, and she says, what could Jim have said to make my dad leave my mom? And at what point in our marriage is he going to say it to me? So they have the roast of Michael Scott, and Meredith says, you are the reason I drink. You are the reason I live to forget. And everybody is just so mean, so brutal to Michael. They couldn't wait to say all these things about how much they hate him. And usually in a roast, Michael thought it would be a roast where, yes, I say mean things to you, but at the end they say, oh, okay, all joking aside, I really love you, or something like that. Well, nobody said that. Everybody just talked about how much they hated him. Dwight gets up and yells at everybody and says, stop this, stop yelling at him. And Dwight's like, and Michael's like, stop it, Dwight, stop it. This is what they're supposed to do. And Dwight gets mad. It's like, because I think Michael calls him an idiot or something like that. And Dwight's like, you call me an idiot? You don't even have any friends or family or any land. So then it's Michael's turn to at the end to roast everybody, and he's just so hurt that he just leaves. He's very hurt by everything. He just leaves. He takes the day off. He messages Pam and says personnel day. I guess he wanted to say personal day, but he said personnel day, and Dwight's like, was that, are we hiring anybody? And Jim says, yeah, your replacement. So Michael goes to the park or something like that, and he's in a turtleneck, and he's just contemplating life. He comes back, and everybody says, hey, I'm really sorry that we were so mean to you. And he's like, well, I want to finish the roast. So he says, Jim, you're 6'11" and you weigh 90 pounds. Gumby has a better body than you. Boom, roasted. Dwight, you're a kiss ass. Boom, roasted. Pam, you failed at art school. Boom, roasted. Meredith, you've slept with so many guys, you're starting to look like one. Boom, roasted. Kevin, I can't decide between a fat joke and a dumb joke. Boom, roasted. Creed, your teeth called, your breath stinks. Boom, roasted. Angela, where's Angela? She's like, oh, there you are. I didn't see you behind that grain of rice. Boom, roasted. Stanley, you crush your wife during sex and your heart sucks. Boom, roasted. Oscar, and at this point, Stanley is laughing. Like, everybody's quiet, but Stanley is laughing like crazy at that. And then he says, Oscar, you're gay. And Oscar's like, wow. Andy, Cornell called. They think you suck and you're gayer than Oscar. Boom, roasted. But he says, no, in all, I'm just all joking aside. I love you guys. You're the reason I got into the paper business. So I love you guys. And everybody claps, and then, they're all good. Pam talks to her dad, And Jim is freaking out because Pam was so upset. It's like, what did Jim do to her? And when she's done talking to her dad, she sees Jim, and Jim said, what happened? What did I do? He said it was your fault, and it's because you told him. Here I go again. Don't get emotional. You told him how much you love me, and that and he said he never felt that way with his mom. So she said something like, when basically she knows that she's found her soulmate or something like that. So they make up. All right. Number 2, season 9, episode 23, the finale. 1 year later, Dunder Mifflin employees past and present reunite for a panel discussion about the documentary and to attend Dwight and Angela's wedding. So the cold open is, it's 1 year later. Dwight's about to be married. Dwight's still the manager. And one of the things he did was fire Kevin. And he gives Kevin a cake and says, get out, or something like that. And so Kevin is fired. And everybody's like, well, first of all, everybody's like freaking out. But then they're like, if Dwight said, if you have a reason by his job performance why he should stay, then let me know. And everybody keeps quiet. Then they say, well, you can't fire Kevin because Toby won't allow it. And Dwight's like, oh yeah, by the way, Toby's fired too. So also Stanley retired. So and he brought back Devin from season 1. You remember, it was the season 1 Halloween episode, or maybe it was season 2, where they said it was between Creed and Devin, and they chose to keep Creed. By the way, Creed faked his own death, and Dwight says, turns out he was a member of a band called the Grassroots, and he sold drugs, which is actually true. The Creed in real life was a member of the band, the Grassroots. So Jim is the best man. And he says, I know I've played a lot of pranks on Dwight, but today it's only good surprises. Guten Procken. And as they're headed to the bachelor party, he stops the limo. They get out, and he gives Dwight he lets Dwight shoot a bazooka and blow up things. I think that's awesome. Daryl at this point is extremely successful. He's part of Athlete. Remember, Jim stayed behind. Pam wouldn't let him pursue his career, so Daryl's doing great. He's in a limo. He sees Andy, and he hides. He doesn't want Andy to see. He doesn't want to talk to Andy because Andy went viral. He was Baby Wawa. Saturday Night Live did a parody. They did an auto-tune song of him. He was just basically a national laughing stock. Oscar is running for state senate, I guess the seat that the senator had. And they have new people, and one of them is Dakota Johnson, I think. And she says to Oscar, it's like, what are these made up funny numbers? And Oscar's like, oh, that's the reason why Kevin got fired. That's Clevin. He would just make up numbers to be done. He said, this and Clevin, be home by 7. And so they get to a restaurant, and it looks like a waitress, but it's actually the stripper. It's the same stripper from Fun Run and the same stripper from the Ben Franklin episode. So she's back, and she's like, does anybody want something? Yeah. And everybody's like, yeah. But Dwight thinks that's the actual waitress. He's like, hello, we've been waiting for food. He's trying to place an order, and he just doesn't get it that she's a stripper and not a waitress. So meanwhile, at Angela's bachelorette party, they hire a stripper also, but it's Meredith's son. And he looks at her and says, Mom? And she's like, oh, go ahead, honey. Good for you. You continue, little entrepreneur. And apparently in real life, and Pam and Jenna Fisher and Angela were actually very uncomfortable at this scene because it's the same kid, the same kid that played the son back in like season 2, this little boy, he was like 10 years old or whatever, and now he's, years later, he's a stripper, and he's like, you were a little kid and now you're stripping in front of us. So uh Phyllis opens the door. There was a knock. Phyllis opens the door, and it's Mose, and he kidnaps Angela. And that's part of the tradition is you kidnap the bride, and then and then the groom has to find him. And so they say, okay, so they so Mose kidnaps Angela, and then Dwight finds out that this happened. He's like, oh yeah, that's just Mose. He's doing the wedding thing. And they said, well, they have to figure out where it is. And Jim says, oh, I know. How about that bar? And Dwight's like, okay, whatever. So they go to the bar, and it's a bar that Kevin owns. Kevin owns a bar now because he became so famous from the documentary. And Jim did this, and Dwight's mad at him. It's like, did you play a prank on me? He's like, no, you need to make up with Kevin. You need, because Kevin is so upset with him. So Dwight and Kevin talk it out, and Kevin thinks it's personal, and Dwight's like, no, it's not personal. You were just really, really bad at your job. And you looked at a lot of porn. We had to throw away the computer that you were on. And he's like, really? He's like, yeah, it was just you're terrible at your job. And he's like, oh, okay. And they hug and make up. So that was sweet. So they're all at the cast reunion, and nobody's there. Nobody's in the auditorium, and they think, well, nobody cares about us. I guess we're not popular. And then Andy goes outside, and Andy thinks, oh, it's probably because of me and because I went viral and whatever. He goes outside, and there's a huge crowd, and he's like, uh-oh, here we go. They're all going to make fun of me. And no, they're all big fans. They're like, yeah, Andy, so they all love him. He's with his people. So now the auditorium is full, and they're all people are asking questions, and a lot of the questions are directed toward Pam. Like, how could you do that to Jim? How could you doubt his love for you? How can you, why didn't you let him pursue his career? All this stuff. And Pam says, well, it's like, well, I had my doubts and stuff. And Jim says, like, listen, no, it's okay. This is what I wanted. Pam didn't do anything wrong, but obviously Pam is portrayed as doing something wrong. There is a question for Aaron from a woman, and she says, I noticed, I might get emotional. I noticed in the documentary you didn't have a mother, and do you hate your mother? And Aaron says, no, I don't hate her, but maybe in a way it's like, I hate you, Mom. And your mom would say, go to your room. And I would be all mad, and I would actually have my own room. I mean, Aaron's story is just really sad, really. I mean, she was basically in an orphanage all her life. And basically that it was just done really well. And she said, basically, it's revealed that woman is her mom. So Aaron finds her mom, and then this guy gets up and says, I have the same question, but about your dad. And so she meets her mom and dad because of the documentary. So that was really sweet. So they go to the wedding, and Dwight and Angela's wedding, and apparently at the wedding, the gift you give is a cat. So everybody gave a cat. Kelly is back. She's with the doctor, Ravi, and Ryan shows up, and Ryan has a baby, and the baby's name is Drake. And Kelly thought that was the coolest thing ever. He's like, no, not because of the singer, duh. Ryan hooked up with this girl, and she just dumped the baby on him. So that's how he got a baby. So Jim tells Dwight, because of some rule, that he can't be the best man. He says, but I know someone who can. And then it's Michael Scott. And Dwight says, I can't believe you came. And he says, that's what she said. And Jim says, best prank ever. That was just stop it. So, that was just really sweet. Because Mose puts Angela in the trunk when he kidnapped her, her ankle's all messed up and she can't walk, and so Phyllis says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it," and she carries Angela down the aisle. So, Phyllis and Angela have hated each other for years, and now now that she does this wonderful thing for her. So Ryan gives the baby a strawberry, which he's allergic to, on purpose, just so he'll get a rash. And he asks Ravi, can you look at the baby? He's like, yeah, okay. So Ravi takes the baby inside, and Ryan says, "Kelly, I love you. Let's run away together." So they just run away together, and Ravi comes back with the baby. He's like, "Where's Kelly?" It's like, they ran away together, and Ravi's like, "Whatever. You know what? Give the baby to Children and Youth Services. They'll find a better father a better parent than Ryan." And Nellie always wanted a baby, so she says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll take care of the baby." So I guess her dream comes true. So Jim and Pam come home, and Carol is there, the realtor, and she's showing the house to a couple, and Jim's like, "What's going on?" And Pam says, "Well, it's supposed to be a surprise. Um, you wanted to, we should quit. We should move to Austin to pursue your career with athlete." And so they decide to quit, and Jim and Pam have a talk with Dwight and say, "Listen, we have to quit." And Dwight says, "You're fired." And Jim's like, "Come on, man, let's not let's end on a good note." And Dwight's like, "No, idiot. I'm gonna fire you so you can get your severance, and it's 1 month off. You pay for every month that you've been here." So uh Jim says, "Oh, if you're ever in Austin, you could you could always stop by and see us." And Dwight's like, "Why would I come to Austin? For the great music and the great nightlife, whatever." And Dwight says, anytime you come back here, you're always welcome in my barn." And Jim says, like, "There it is." um so they have a party in the warehouse of Dunder Mifflin, and a lot of the documentary people are there. A lot of outside people are there, and all the people from the office. They all like hint. Let's go upstairs. Um, so uh, so Pam says, it would. She said she couldn't watch the series because the documentary, because she was just so mad at herself for those early seasons. And she said, "But it would just make my heart sore if someone out there saw this and said to herself, 'Be strong, trust yourself, love yourself, conquer your fears. Just go after what you want, act fast because life isn't that long.'" Trying to keep it together here. And there was a talking head from Andy, where basically Andy he got to speak at the commencement of Cornell. They did it, the seniors did it as a joke, but he actually gave a really good speech, and he actually works in the admission office at Cornell, which is his dream job, is to be at Cornell. So he finally got his dream job, but he still thinks about his coworkers. He says, "I wish there was a way to know." Come on. "I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them." Great, great line. Jim said, "My job was to speak to clients on the phone about quantities and types of copier paper. Even if I didn't love every minute of it, everything I have, I owe to this job, this stupid, wonderful, amazing, boring job." And the trying to keep it together. The final scene and the final thing said in the whole series is from Pam. "I thought it was weird when you picked us to make a documentary, but all in all, I think an ordinary paper company like Dunder Mifflin was a great subject for a documentary. There's a lot of beauty in ordinary things. Isn't that kind of the point?" I'm trying to keep it together. Uh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this last one. So the number one episode. We're finally here at number one, season 7, episode 22. Goodbye, Michael. It's Michael's second to last day at Dunder Mifflin, and everyone in the office is preparing for his departure and goodbye party the next day. However, unknown to the staff, it's actually his last day before he leaves for Colorado that night. So he secretly makes his goodbyes to everyone in the office. Meanwhile, Andy tries to keep hold of one of Michael's long-lasting clients. So the cold open is Michael is on the roof of the building to get used to the altitude of Colorado. Dwight comes up and says, "Hey, here's some meatballs." And then Dwight says, "Just kidding. Those are actual bull testicles I cut off today." And Michael's like, "Dwight, why would you do that?" He's like, "I'm so mad at you because you didn't recommend me." And Michael's like, "Listen, I don't own the company, dummy. There's nothing I could do." And then Michael says, I heard there's bears in Colorado. Is it a good idea if I walk around with salami? How about pepperoni?" And Dwight's like, no, that's the worst thing you would do. Bears, and he just goes on and on about bears, and Michael just looks at the camera and smiles. So they decided to have a party planning dream team for the party. And it's all the previous heads of the party planning committee, Pam, Angela, Phyllis, and for some reason they brought Meredith. I don't know why, but they decide what kind of cake. And Michael says, "Well, let's get a cake everybody wants." Now, remember when it was his birthday party in season 2 that he only wanted mint chocolate chip, even though Meredith wasn't allowed to eat it or something like that. But he was so selfish, and now he just wants something that everybody likes. He took his world's best boss mug. He says, "You know what? I bought this, but last night they gave me a Dundie of the best boss. So this means a lot more." So to Andy, he started giving gifts to everybody, and he gave he gave Oscar some ugly thing. I don't know. He thought it was the funniest thing. I don't know. It was just so stupid. But he gives Andy his best clients, and all the salespeople are like, what the heck? And Andy's like, I'm not any good. I'm gonna lose them. And then Oscar says, so where should we mail your last paycheck? He's like, I don't know. And then he starts to freak out. He's like, "Oh, the channels are going to be different, and I got to start all over in improv. I don't want to do this." So he calls Holly, and she calms him down, and so he's okay. He talks to Daryl, and his gift to him is his book, Somehow I Manage. And there was a chapter that said gum. Everybody likes gum or something like that. And then he says to Daryl, "Can I use the baler?" And Daryl's like, "Absolutely not." Then Michael goes down to the warehouse. He says, "Daryl said I could use a baler." And they're like, "No, you can't." So he has a basketball, and there's a basketball hoop down there. So he says, "See you later, warehouse. Catch you guys on the flippity flip." And he throws it, and he misses. And he throws it again, and he misses. He keeps seeing, "Catch you guys on the flippity flip." And he throws it, he misses like 100 times. Keeps throwing, and eventually he makes it. Meanwhile, in the whole episode, Gabe is acting like a psycho. I hate Gabe so much. He's telling Andy he's not allowed to get together with Aaron. Who cares? That was just so stupid. So Michael gives to Dwight a letter of recommendation, and at this point Dwight is so angry, and so he does a talking head. It's like, "Oh, this will be good. To whom it may concern." Good, real personal. Thanks, Michael. "The dictionary defines superlative as of the highest kind, quality, or order, surpassing all else or others, supreme." He says, "That's great. If I want a dictionary definition, I'd buy a dictionary. Thanks. I define it as Dwight Schrute." As a sales executive, as a leader, as a man, and as a friend, he is the highest kind, quality, and order, supreme. Then a lot more like that, really repetitive. Then it says, "Meet me for paintball," or something like that. So they go to the parking lot and they have a paintball battle. So at this point, Pam was pricing shredders in Carbondale or whatever that town was, and while she's doing that, Uniondale, maybe Uniondale, and while she does that, she goes to watch a movie, The King's Speech by Colin Firth, and so Michael is really worried that he's not going to see her for goodbye. And Jim figures it out. It's like, oh, you're not leaving tomorrow, you're leaving today. So he figures it out. He goes into the office and he says, "You know what I think we should do? I think we should just save goodbyes for tomorrow at lunch." And Michael says, "Okay." And then tomorrow, I could tell you what a great boss you turn out to be. The best boss I ever had. And so he looks at everybody one more time. Oh, and the Phyllis made him a mitt. And remember in the Christmas episode in season 2, she made him a mitt and he freaked out because it wasn't an expensive gift. And now all he wants is the thing that Phyllis made. So he looks at everybody one more time. And Creed has his world's best boss mug. Creed also took his boots, by the way. It was just so stupid. And Creed's like, "See you tomorrow, boss." And so he leaves. So he goes to the airport and Pam catches him just in time. He takes off the microphone so you can't hear him anymore. He's like, "Man, I can't wait to get this off my chest." And then off mic he says, "That's what she said." So he's about to get on the flight, and Pam runs up to get him, and they say their goodbyes, and she says that he was really excited and he was really happy to see Holly, and so Pam got to say her goodbyes. And then in the end, so everybody is at the party, but Michael doesn't show up. And D'Angelo is there was a thing about Andy going to talk to one of the clients to try them to not get them to leave. And Andy says to D'Angelo, "Hey, let's go together." And D'Angelo acts like a maniac, and he's actually yelling at the customer. It's just the weirdest thing. And D'Angelo's like, "Well, screw you. I don't want you anyway." So Andy says, "Hey, I got to go back for something." And he says to the customers, like, "I am so sorry about that. I promise if you stay with us, I will take care of you. Here's my number. You'll be taken care of." So he gets back the customer. So at the going away party, D'Angelo, I guess he's had this thing about, he used to be fat, but now he's watching what he eats, and he takes the cake and he just grabs it and he shoves it in his mouth. He's like, "Oh, I've been good." He's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that." And then he just goes crazy with the cake. And Dwight turns to Jim and says, "Uh-oh." So that is the end of the episode. So why is that number one? It was basically between that and the finale, but this was number one because basically this is where the show died. When Steve Carell left, that's it. So that's why. So all right. Thank you for being with me on this journey. I had so much fun. This is one of the greatest shows ever. So thank you very much. And I will see you. Bye.